And this week we have a special episode. We are looking at fasting again, where we looked at fasting benefits in season 1. It was actually one of our very first episodes, in like the top 20 episodes or something. And now we're going to dive into fasting based upon our own experiences with ourselves and with our clients, to hopefully shed some light on anyone who is going through a specific experience, and hopefully help steer you in the right direction. So before we get started, I wanted a section to talk about some news. I have something that I would like to discuss, and maybe Eric's got something for us. But it was pretty interesting flipping through some magazines, and I came across an article that says, "New physical activity guidelines break fresh ground." And basically, the Health and Human Services Department is taking a better look at the basic sort of recommendations for physical activity. And previously it was, adults and adolescents should engage in at least 150 to 300 minutes per week of moderate intensity aerobic physical activity, or 75 to 150 minutes per week of vigorous, intense aerobic activity. And essentially, through the data that was collected, they found that this was just too easy to hit these regulations, and there's better recommendations to be made. So I think it's pretty interesting. One of the specifics I want to look at real quick just says, the guidelines formulate for the first time physical activity standards for children aged 3 to 5, updated recommendations for children aged 6 to 17. And I think it's just smart. I think as a society, culturally, it's just really cool to see that the people in charge of the institutions at the top are really starting to wake up and get an idea of the bigger picture.
Did they say what the standard exercise time for those groups should be? Or do they just say it should be changed?
So this just talks about the problems with our country, talking about how it goes into the problems. It talks about some of the specific guidelines they are enhancing, but then it just concludes with the new physical activity guidelines and related resources for healthcare professionals are available at health.gov website. So I don't know if I don't know exactly what they updated, but it's just cool to see that they're making these changes. But I thought it was pretty interesting that one of the points they made was that the failure to meet federal aerobic physical activity recommendations accounts for an estimated nearly $117 billion in annual healthcare costs. And the only way I can really think they assume that data is anytime someone comes in and gets anything done medically, they ask them if they exercise or not. And in that survey data, they find that most people who are coming in for help or treatment are not exercising. But it actually hits back to one of the things we learned in our old podcast, was that 1/3 of all people 17 to 24 years old don't even qualify for military services. 1/3.
And it's amazing. And I think you have to kind of increase the guidelines, because it was what you said, 150 minutes a week.
150 to 300 minutes a week of moderate intensity aerobic activity.
Which if you take the low of that, so we'll take the 150 and divide it by 3. So you're talking 50 minutes, 3 days at 50 minutes. That's, especially in this time where, health issues are starting to skyrocket. That's not even enough to even touch what kind of you need to do to offset those health issues or to stay healthy. I mean, we kind of know that you have to be kind of active almost every single day. And I don't think 50 minutes is just really going to cut it.
No, not at all. It's barely going to keep maintaining you if you have health problems. But it is interesting because, if you're, it's interesting that you say the words like, well, look at it today, because when these guidelines were made, I guarantee it was when everyone was outside more. Even as a kid, you might have been outside playing from the time you get home till the time it's dark. people were doing more physical activity. Whereas you fast forward to nowadays and everyone's got like the VR and everyone's on their computers and Fortnite and whatnot, that those standards back then were almost like just pointless because you didn't need the standards. It's just kind of saying like, yeah, just make sure you get this in. But everyone was already physically active. Whereas nowadays it's like, all right, if people are actually basing their physical health off these standards, we need to change these things. Because in no scenario is 150 to 300 minutes a day of 150 to 300 minutes a week enough to really stimulate any growth in the body.
No, and you need at least more, and especially for, you want to break it up into the younger kids. Right now, the younger kids need actually probably more development, and like you said, they, and we'll talk ages 3 to 15. That's key development growth and behavioral and social skills. If you're putting a screen in front of them, that's not going to be the best for their development or any kind of health benefits down the line. And you're just breeding this behavioral patterning of continually staying that, oh, this is easy, let me just do that, I don't have to worry about it. And it's not good.
Yeah. No, it's funny you just mentioned that because I was reading an article about how there's like a sect, there's like a population base in the youth where they have learning disabilities or severe ADD, severe ADHD because of too much screen time in their youth. And it's just sad.
It's not good. It is.
Yeah. I don't mean to veer off topic. Let's go back to the new physical standard.
I'm trying to find the new physical standard here, but I mean, they released this is a whole booklet on this, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff about prevention of specific diseases like dementia or MS or ADHD or Parkinson's, diabetes. Like these guidelines aren't just like, oh, we've updated it to 300 to 600 minutes a week. Like there's a lot of specific evidence that goes into this stuff. There's like this guy, Dr. Krause, who does all the research and development. And he's a professor of medicine and cardiologist at Duke, and he's the president-elect of the American College of Sports Medicine. And then there's this 4-star admiral, yeah, I'm an idiot, who works at I think he works for the American Heart Association.
My favorite.
But yeah, but it's just smart.
You got to get this stuff on people's radar, because if you don't, people just think it's the old stuff. And unfortunately, people really listen to and abide by these rules. And you kind of got to give people more steerance and guidance. You have to.
Yeah, you definitely need more details for people. But one thing that everybody could adopt into their routine is fasting. Look at that segue. Beautiful introduction right there.
Stop eating now.
Yeah, exactly. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with fasting or just know in the basic term of the word, the idea is that you have a window of time where you're consuming your food, and then you have a period of time where you don't consume anything except for maybe water, but not like sugar water, nothing else in it. The idea is that when you eat, when we consume different beverages with different nutrients in it, we start these different clocks that aid in digestion. So when we don't eat or we go through a fasted state, we not only give our body time to rest and our digestive system time to rest, but we allow our body to utilize the energy that's already on its system. So that's like the basic gist of fasting. There's a great resource by Dr. Fung called The Complete Guide to Fasting. And he kind of, is Jason Fung with Jimmy Moore. He kind of brought fasting to the mainstream fitness world. he talks about intermittent fasting, fasted cardio, shortened eating windows, dry fasts, water fasts, and we'll get into that stuff today and talking about our own experiences. And I'm actually curious, just on a personal level, how do you use fasting yourself on a weekly basis or anything?
I do. I not right now. I'm not. I have dabbled with it on weekly basis, and from what and we'll get into from the results of it. But yeah, I will from here and there go into it because I use it more lines of the autophagy. I mean, that is huge. So pair that with exercise, and that's how I use it a lot. I haven't recently. The last time I did it was actually a couple weeks ago. I did actually a full day fast. I did was it 20,
good for you.
20 hour?
Nice.
And at first I thought, it's a little tough because you wake up hungry, but as you go, I felt fine. And I was still able to get a full quality workout. I mean, I didn't really feel that, the percentage dropped. I mean, I didn't go run a marathon, so I didn't need everything, but I still got a workout in and I felt fine.
Yeah. So did you when you I know you said you did a 20-hour fast. When you fast kind of here and there, do you just skip breakfast? Do you have an earlier dinner? Do you skip lunch?
So usually what I'll do is more or less I'll fast on the weekend. So my week is my week. I have my normal food, and then Friday night I'll shut down my meals. And then I'll wake up normal time, and I say I won't eat till sometimes it'll be 12 noontime. Sometimes it won't be until like 1 o'clock in the afternoon Saturday. So say if I stop eating, even if I stopped eating at midnight, it's a 12-hour fast. I really found that research had got to go a little bit longer. So I'll stop at 8 p.m. on Friday to get that. We're talking close to 16-hour fasting.
Yeah.
And then I'll do that Sunday too. Sunday's usually
nice.
My big one.
Good for you, man. And that makes so much sense because what he's doing there is he's timing his fasts with his activity. So Monday through Friday, I know you work out fucking hard. So Monday through Friday, he wants to be able to recover. He wants to be able to have fuel ready in the muscle ready to go for the next training session. But on the weekends, he's taking advantage of the fact that he has a longer time to recover between Friday's workout and Monday's workout. So instead of forcing his body to have glycogen ready in the muscle for quick energy, he's demanding that his body get that replenish that fuel from places on his body. And there's different ways that his body's doing that. There's gluconeogenesis. No, that's not the right one. I'm sorry. There's I forget the names. They don't need. They're just big words anyway, right? But they're just one of them has to do with fats, and one of them has to do with proteins. So one of them's amino acids, and one of them's fatty acids, which is then converts them into glucose, and then boom, stores it in the muscle. So
yeah, you had the right word.
What was it?
You had the right word.
Gluconeogenesis.
Yeah, gluconeogenesis.
Is that right? Okay.
Building glucose molecules.
So his body can convert glucose from fat or from protein, or if he continuously eats glucose, it's already ready and can be stored in the muscle. The problem with doing it in that route is you get insulin release, you dump a lot of blood sugar into your blood, a lot of sugar into your blood, and you're forcing your pancreas to work extra hard. So you don't want to do all that all the time. Even people, high-performing athletes like Ben Greenfield risked being pre-diabetic, and even athletes risk being pre-diabetic because they're not fat adaptive. They're relying on that one-track fuel source that eventually can burn out and lead to long-term issues. So by timing his fast with his activity levels, he's being really efficient and not only getting the benefits of autophagy, but he's actually... You said you'd go 16 or more?
Yeah.
You're actually doubling the stem cell production specifically in your intestines. So you are literally giving a mini vacation to your digestive system so that the next time you go to digest something, it has stem cells, which are the youngest, newest, most most adaptive cells, and they are helping him improve the way he digests. So it's giving his digestive system literally the weekend off, so that when he comes back Monday and he eats all this food 3 times a day, 5 days a week, his digestive system performs like it's a preteen. So that's awesome. I'm glad you timed it like that. I'm just starting to get into prolonged fasts on the weekend again. I used to just go from Friday dinner to Saturday midday, and then I would just eat a ton of food, like more food than I should. Saturday dinner and then Sunday morning, noon, and night, because I would always feel like, oh, I gotta prep up and get ready for the week. I gotta eat a lot and get my body ready. But in reality, that's really not what you have to do at all. Yeah. So.
No, some people will. If they're working out and need to get the calories in, but you don't. Especially if you're not working out, you don't have to. Like feel like you're jamming everything in.
Yeah, I think.
I mean,
sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, I've also dabbled with the on the lines of that. We'll basically call it time restricted eating, where I would fast, or put it this way, I'd shut down food and I tried a couple different times. I'd shut down at 6 p.m. for one time, and I wouldn't eat till I woke up I'd wake up and then I'd eat at 6 a.m. So I would have 12 hours to eat, and then after that, I would just shut it down. 12 hours off, 12 hours on, 12 hours off. Then I kind of start messing around with it. I'd stop eating at 8. I'd wake up, I'd do a workout, and then I'd try to fit everything in between, depending on what the day looked like, between 9 a.m. and something 8 p.m. And for me, I really felt good on it, but it was hard getting that many calories in that window frame.
I was just thinking, like, that time frame for like your schedule, I can already see that's not that conducive, like not that convenient. You probably had to have like all your meals packed and everything.
Yeah,
which isn't a bad thing. It's just about planning ahead. But
it was good because at this point I did have some time to mess around with it. So there'd be a couple days where I could just do that and test it out. What I did like though is shutting down eating at night. Like, already know that you have all your caloric intake in for the day, and then just shutting down. I actually found that I felt like I slept better, or just it wasn't like, oh, I gotta, back in the day when you're trying to put weight on in like high school, you're like, I gotta eat,
Yeah.
and you're eating like right before you go to bed, and then you're going to bed on a full stomach. It was just nice just being like, hey, I'm done.
Yeah. And you probably like were comfortable when you went to bed and stuff like that.
And on that, I would say, I mean, I'm not talking crazy fasting, but I would still get that time frame where, my body was completely shut down. There was no food in or out. But then I'd get all these calories in, and, I think, like we said, our bodies adapt to everything. And I think it's good to go in cycles. And I think it's really good to experiment with all this stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. And for anyone listening who hasn't tried it the way that Menchie's talking about, because I think it's really typical for people I think it's more common for people to skip breakfast and try to push their lunch back as far as possible, or maybe even skip lunch and make it to dinner and do a 24-hour like that. But I think a big benefit to the way you did yours is you don't eat bullshit. Like, when you have the shortened eating window and you're like, all right, I'm done, whether that's eating breakfast and lunch, or whether that's eating between like a lunch and a dinner, you cut yourself off and you're like, that's it, I'm done. But I'll be honest, like, when I go through a 24-hour fast, or if I had a light lunch and I had a light dinner, I don't feel guilty by eating something after dinner. And it's not bullshit, but it's not something I need. It's not something that I need to be putting in my body when in reality, all it really needs is like olive oil and some form of amino acids. Um, so I do like that one a lot because it's like dinner's early, and then after that, it's like you're shut down. There's nothing else that's allowed to go in your body, so you don't even think about like healthy treats you could have, or like putting cocoa powder with tahini, even though it's not bad for you. It's just like, well, I'm doing a shortened eating window. It's not that it's not good for. It's not that it's bad for me. It's just that I want the long period of no food in my system.
Well, and then think of the person. If you're a person out there listening, and you're trying to lose weight or cut for a show or whatever. Research has shown that it actually helps if you're that kind of person that's habitual of like late night. You shut down, and then you're doing something completely different, and you're not going to say no after a while. And just with fasting, that hunger sensation goes away. That feeling of, oh, I have to eat because it's this time. I have to do this and this and this. It goes away.
Because it was like mental before. It wasn't even that you were hungry, just that you thought you were hungry.
And then as you go, you start to realize you're cutting down on your intake, and you're actually cutting calories out of your diet. And it's not like a conscious thing of like, oh, I can't have that, and you feel bad. You're just saying, hey, this is my time frame. I'm done eating. Whatever calories left, say if you cut 100 calories a day, for 5 days, that's 500 calories cut. I mean, you're going to see some significant, hopefully weight loss if you're exercising and eating right. You're not eating crap, but also you're getting the health benefits of the fast. So a lot of times when people are like, oh, do you expect me to fast? Are you going to tell me to fast? I say, no, the best way to kind of approach a fast is start with some time restricted eating in some way, and then get a feel for how that's going to go. And then you kind of pick your time windows and time frames, because it's a lot easier, I found, for some of my clients who, they're at a desk 9 to 5, where they can kind of control, hey, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to skip breakfast. Like you said, I'll push lunch, and then I'll kind of eat my meals. And then at dinner time, I'm done. And so you repeat that. Now you're starting to get into fasting. And then one day you're going to wake up and just don't eat lunch.
Yeah.
And there's a long fast.
Yep. I coach it the same exact way, except I start with people to try it on the weekends, because I'm at a point where I literally go after dinner. I definitely don't have breakfast unless it's like a big lift and I'm lifting later in the day, but I usually skip breakfast, maybe have some vegetables and olive oil and eggs at lunch, and then a big dinner. But sometimes I even skip lunch. But I think the best was telling people, like, after dinner on Friday, try to skip breakfast, or have a brunch, and then the following week work on skipping brunch and try to just have lunch, and then the following week push back lunch, and then the following week try just skipping breakfast and lunch and making it straight to dinner. And I totally agree. Like, it's got to work in steps like that, because your body has to get on board with what you're doing to it. And if your body's sending signals for ghrelin release and trying to tease your appetite and get you hungry because it's used to that, you got to break out of that habit, break out of that cycle, and kind of make it kind of have a guessing game a little bit, so it doesn't just send signals to make you hungry. A big benefit too of what was I going to say? Oh, I just had a brain fart. But what I was going to say is, getting back to the two styles of fasting. The one is where I know what I was going to say. The big benefit too of, if you can skip breakfast and you're someone who works out in the morning, is that you're going to be demanding your body use fuel that it doesn't have in its system. So it's going to have to start partitioning fuel from other areas of the body, and you're going to really amplify the autophagy, the fact that it's eating itself. And just a quick little story was, I had my dad here this week, and we got up, I took the dog out, made coffee. I got back from work, and he was like, you know what? Like, let's just go on a hike. I'm not even hungry. And then we get back from the hike, and he's like, you know what? I don't feel hungry. But he had to have that cognitive awareness. Before, it was just so automatic that it wasn't like, oh, I'm hungry. It's just like, oh, it's lunchtime, I gotta eat. And it becomes this like this cyclical nature that we fall into. We don't break out of the cycle. But in reality, our bodies weren't meant to, or our digestive system wasn't meant to work for, to take 6 to 8 hours of work when you put food in your system. It wasn't meant to work 6 hours, 3 times a day, 7 days a week from beginning of the time that we're born to the time we die. So you need periods where it rests and recovers and gets better at its job. But even in a week of exercise and having my dad fast a couple times, he lost 5 pounds, and he is so funny. At one point, he's like, pulled his shirt up. He's like, I feel like it looks smaller. And he has a little bit of a gut. And I didn't notice any visual changes, but he felt better. And I can definitely understand that, because we were forcing his body to use the energy on its system. We weren't saying, oh, well, let's put more energy in, because there was plenty to be partitioned and used. So it's really beneficial for people to break through that first period of, am I hungry, or is it just like routine? And just try to get more and more in tune with when your body's actually hungry versus when, you just are a creature of habit.
Well, and that's the thing. And you definitely have to have cognition of, like you said, of what you're knowing, but it's so easy to kind of suppress that just by keeping busy, or just doing, I'm fine, or changing that activity. That's what I find works so well on my end, is knowing that. And yeah, at times, like if you're first starting, you're going to be hungry, but then once you aware of it and you're like, I'm fine, it just goes away.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is it like you feel a little bit of cessation in your stomach, and it starts to sort of growl at you? You might have a glass of water, or you might just wait it out, and it really does just kind of fizzle. It goes away. Now, but I will say that I've gotten better at knowing, like, oh wow, I'm fucking famished, I'm starving, I'm hungry, and now I know the difference. But
Right.
but there were times in the beginning where I could definitely feel the lack of ability to push myself and continuously push myself in the gym, where like I could hit my peaks or hit my max, but I wasn't staying there for long, and I wasn't able to like get it back. So if I was like hitting a number on a bench press that I was only hitting like 1 or 2 reps of, I was only able to get like 1 set in, and like my second and third sets were just like dog shit, because I just didn't have it in me. But I really have gotten better, and I feel like my body has gotten more efficient at its job, because not only can I lift on a 24-hour fast and feel like I have good strength, but I can go hiking on like a 40-hour fast, like a full day, and then skip breakfast and lunch, and like still be out hiking and not feel hungry or famished, because my body's gotten good at that efficiency. And if you look at evolutionarily speaking, our bodies probably have the capacity of sustaining without food for longer than we might care to acknowledge. They have the record longest recorded fast ever, and it was something over like 370 days or something. This guy was, severely overweight, severely obese, and it was doctor monitored, and they had him eat yeast and potassium and different electrolytes, at least in the beginning. And these were like supplements that he was drinking. But then essentially he's, for 6 months after, that was the first 6 months, but then after that, he's basically just having water and fasting, because he's forcing his body to use what's on its system. And it's kind of like a kid who wants a brand new toy. You keep giving it a brand new toy, keep giving it a brand new toy. Your body wants new fuel. But if you said, hey, we can't get any more fuel, or we can't get any more toys, your body and the kid is going to make do with what they got. Like, what's fascinating about this longest fast ever, and you can look this up, people. You can Google like longest recorded fast. The dude didn't even have saggy skin. And that's like the biggest problem people complain of when they go through severe weight loss or severe weight loss surgery. And what happened was his body was consuming the proteins in its skin and the fat in its skin in certain ways. And it's just really fascinating when you look at all this stuff in a scientific manner, because the body is just truly this adaptable being that we lose sight of because we're all fancily dressed up with suit and tie and all sophisticated, when in reality we're fucking animals. We're just fucking big sophisticated animals.
Yeah, and I think people really, they almost get it ingrained that they have to eat, you know? Like, obviously you do, but now that there's so much surplus of food everywhere, well, not everywhere, but like in this country, you can walk around, you know, I can walk down the street and find 3 or 4 different food variation places. It's almost like people think they're hungry when they're not even hungry.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean, because there's definitely times where I used to eat or like just go out because I was like bored and it was an activity. Um, and even when I was fasting, it was kind of like, fuck, I have to do a 48-hour fast this weekend. What should I do? You know what I mean? I was literally thinking to myself, what should I do? Because I had taken eating off of the table as an activity. And in reality, it's like there's so much other shit I can do. And it's nice to not feel tethered by this need to eat.
But the first time you kind of approach it, I don't know how you felt, but I was like, all right, this is where the weekend where I found kind of challenging is if I didn't have much going on, you know, I'd kind of sit there in the morning, you know, I'd have my coffee or whatever, which for everyone that doesn't really break your fast. Some people will argue it does if it's black. I don't know what you do, but I'll drink some coffee.
They argue that like your liver is working or something like that.
Yeah, because it can mobilize, you know, all that jazz, but
it's still a fast in my book.
Yeah. So if I'm just say it's like dead of winter and there's not like it's quiet, you know, you're sitting there and you're like, I'm kind of bored, and then you start feeling that hunger catch in. But if I do it during like the week or a day, and you know, it's business as usual. It's just the times that I'm expecting to eat that I just fill it with different work to do. So I don't just sit there and I'm like, oh, I have now 30 minutes. What am I going to do? It's like, no, let me open a book. Let me, you know, read a research article, or let me get a workout in early. And then you start doing this stuff. And before you know it, you don't even think about food. You're just like, oh, geez, I haven't eaten in 6 hours. Let me just keep going.
Yeah. Dude,
Did you find it tough the first time, or for the first couple times you've tried like a prolonged fast?
Yeah, because it was so much on my headspace, because it's like,
yeah,
all right, I'm going to do this fast. And you can't, it's not like you can go into it like it's a lift. You can't like just fucking focus on good form and hold everything tight and hit it. You have to like wait it out. It's an endurance game. So it's like a Jedi mind trick. In order to fast, you have to not think about fasting. So definitely the first time I was kind of dilly-dallying, and that same time I was like, I just got to get out of the house. And now I'm better about it. Like if I know that I'm going to fast all day Saturday, I just keep myself busy. Like I don't let myself like hang around the house or anything like that. But also one key point I want to make too is when you get yourself in this mindset and in this sort of routine, we'll say, you have a better relationship with food. So I really don't have the times that I'm like craving something and need to fulfill it. And I don't have the times where I emotionally eat the way I used to. Whereas like my go-tos would be like a cheesy gordita crunch from Taco Bell and like a cookie, or just like anything chocolate. It's like when I'm hungry, I really want good fuel. Like it took me time to get here, but I really want like vegetables with a shit ton of olive oil poured on it, and I want the white rice, the plain white rice with olive oil. I want the eggs, and it took me a while to get here because, you know, we talk about kind of you strengthen the old bad pathways that you got to kind of break that habit. But also, like, I have a different relationship with food in such that I know what's going to provide me for better fuel. So when I look at something, I get turned off if it's like, I don't know, if it was even if it was like chicken and broccoli with rice on it from a Chinese restaurant, I would just look at it funny because I'd be like, ew, like it's probably got vegetable oils. It's probably going to make me feel lethargic. It's probably not going to make me have the best workout tomorrow. Like, I know all this stuff because I've been in tune with it for so long. So it's like I don't have that that guilty pleasure people say, right? They're like, what's your guilty pleasure? It's like
Yeah.
fucking eating food and lifting out and loving life. Um, so I think that is a key point to get to. And I don't know, do you feel like you're at that
Totally.
point, or you know what? I feel like you were there before I was. What am I talking about?
Um, well, yeah, I mean, people ask me what I feel when I look at food, and like just like you said, I look at it as a fuel source. Um, it kind of amazes me that people are like, oh, that looks so good, or oh, that looks like crap. Like to me, like food is food. Food really shouldn't drive an emotion, and I think that's the problem. Is a lot of people associate certain foods with certain emotions, and then they get like attached to it.
No, totally.
If that makes
That's
sense.
exactly what happens, and
And then
people don't even realize it though. But you were honestly one of the first persons that
and then when
inspired me. That was like, because I would eat plain stuff. There was a period of time where I would eat like plain whole wheat bagels, plain tuna, plain eggs, plain oatmeal, and that was it. But every fucking day, guys, this kid's in the fucking break room, and everyone else's lunch smells good and is like teasing your nose and your taste buds, and Menchie's sitting there with boiled chicken, a whole sweet potato, like not even peeled or chopped up or nothing, and then just fucking plain vegetables. And I remember looking at you like, how do you do that? Like, I'm sure you had like olive oil on or coconut oil on or something. I was like, how do you do that every single day? It's like, I
some
could do it when I have like, when I was preparing for a bodybuilding show or whatever, like preparing for a colonoscopy, whatever. I can stick to strict things like that. But it was the fact that you were doing it in a really repetitive, permanent way. And I knew that I had to make changes. And I'm so happy I'm at the point now. And I remember sitting there in the break room with you being like, I can now, I remember being proud. I remember telling you one day, I was like, dude, I can now tell the difference between an orange pepper, a red pepper, and a green pepper just by biting into them. And it's crazy how, like, your taste buds are almost like deadened at first, right? When you're so used to something so sweet and savory, and you have like
yeah.
something as boring as rice and chicken, you're like, ew, this is gross. I need more salt. I need more olive oil. I need sauce. I need something with more flavor on it. But if you give yourself enough time, that white rice, that chicken, that broccoli is so good. And it satiates your desire for food. And yeah, it's funny how your taste buds change.
Yeah, basically they come alive to different stuff, and yeah, I mean that's basically how it goes. I mean, I don't really heat my food up ever, which and I tell people who ask me like, oh, how do you eat it cold? I was like, it's just what I have to do, and then when I get to the weekend or even I come home at night, like now I'm sitting and I get to have a warm meal at
So
night.
rewarding.
That is just like unbelievable to me. I mean, it's really good. So it's like delayed gratification of okay, you're gonna go home and have a hot meal. Okay, that's awesome. But everything else is kind of gonna be, hey, this is this is routine. This is what we have to do to fuel the system to stay healthy. It, I tell people it really doesn't really matter what something tastes like. Obviously you don't want to taste like crap, but if someone told you that this new vegetable tastes like dog crab, but if you eat it, you will guaranteed live 20 years longer. How many
But
people
it's
wouldn't eat that? It's got to be a psychological thing. Be like, here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to put it in a smoothie. Maybe I'll put it in a shaker cup and drink it with crickets. I don't know. I'll
it's
figure it
just
out.
so difficult though because like I remember sitting there almost fighting with myself. And yeah,
Oh yeah.
you mentally
Oh, it's
are
hard.
like,
It's very hard.
no, this is shit. And then you're mentally like, no, like this is better and this is right. And you're fighting your own addictive brain. Like it's an internal struggle. If you picture the devil and the angel sitting on your shoulders, that is very much at play here. When you're changing your diet around and when you're
Oh yeah.
introducing fasting and we're trying to get your body to turn on that fat adaptive switch, because that's really the problem is we've used one fuel source back to the beginning. We've used one fuel source for so long that it's hard for our body to flip the switches for the other fuel sources and partitioning fuel the other way. So when you go through that period of I'm going to just eat vegetables, I'm just going to eat cleanly, I'm not going to eat bullshit, it's literally like the devil's yelling in your ear like, where's the fucking sugar? Where's the fucking cheese? Like it's like screaming at you. And then finally you finish dinner and the devil's like sneaking in your ear like, all right, you earned it. Go get yourself something sweet, baby. And it's so funny at the back and forth. Like it's been a long time coming. I've had ulcerative colitis since 2015. And back then I mentally told myself like, that's it. I'm only going to have fucking like allow myself chocolate, but I'm not going to eat any more bullshit. And you know how much bullshit I've eaten since 2015? It's not even worth mentioning. But 2019 has been a great fucking year. And I've even 2018 was a great fucking year where I just was much more in tune with my body, much more in tune with what I should be eating, what I shouldn't be eating, and much more disciplined at understanding when it's okay to, have some pancakes over the weekend or being like, no, I don't need this fucking cake or I don't need to eat this bullshit that's out of this restaurant. So, it is a balancing act, but in the beginning, it's definitely about overcoming that addictive brain. And you're going to have a lot of internal struggles. And I think fasting is one of the best tools that I used to help me get through those mental addiction or that sugar addiction phase.
Oh yeah, because it literally it breaks you. It will break you down to a point where the next time, say you've done a month of fasting and cleaning, the next time you go have something sugary or like a piece of cake, you're gonna have that and be like, what am I eating? What just what just entered my system? And like you said, your body's gonna know right within a couple hours. You're gonna be high. You'll be like, oh, that sugar was great. And then you're going to feel lethargic. You could have GI issues, not you per se, but, people out there, and they wonder why, they go on these Whole30 diets and they lose all this weight and they feel great. And then they start reintroducing some of the stuff back. And at first they'll feel it, but then they get right back to that state of constant inflammation, and that system's like, yeah, I can just live here. We can stay right here. Until it goes a little overboard, and then hey, I'm starting to gain weight, or, I'm seeing adverse effects. I'm feeling adverse effects. It's just, fasting is got to be one of the best ways to go. Or even, I've done reverse fast. Oh, I wouldn't even call it reverse fasting, but I'll wake up in the morning. I'll have a big breakfast, omelet, veggie omelet with eggs, some potatoes, whatever. And then I literally won't eat the rest of the day. Or say I'll do that and I've had breakfast, I'll eat at 12, I'll have lunch, and then nothing till the next morning. There's so many ways you can approach fasting.
My favorite is skipping breakfast and lunch and then having a big dinner. And then I usually have like a big dessert. Like, again, Sunday's like my big fucking all balls to the walls usually. But, or excuse me, Sunday I don't even fast. I'll eat like a lunch on Sundays. I eat at least 2 meals on Sundays, but I do love kind of going ham on something. Like, you miss breakfast and lunch, and then all of a sudden dinner is like this feast, and I love doing that because it just feels like, I don't know, it's just so rewarding. Like, it's interesting how you were mentioning like the rewarding of the warm meal. Like, I like when I can actually like sit down and have a meal and just make it about me relaxing and enjoying the food. Whereas before I would like, even breakfast, right? Or even lunch, it'd be like, all right, I got to eat. It's that time. And I'm just kind of eating to eat just to get it over with.
Yeah.
versus like sitting there and actually enjoying each bite.
But that's like that's the variance you need is, you know, you're sitting and eating, you're not enjoying it. That's sometimes it's got to be there. And then Sunday nights you sit down and you're like, okay, now I can have this emotional connection. I can have this, you know,
Yeah.
build a memory. This is good. But being able to balance that, regulate that on and off, I think most people stay in that on state and they're like, I have to be
Yeah.
emotionally
Yeah.
feeling this, you know. That's when you hear people like, I cried over this salad. It's like, well, yeah, obviously, because A, your body's not going to enjoy it. It's probably not warm and it's not what you want. And you can't make that connection. So I think that's like sort of like me. It's like having that balance. And same thing with fasting. You're going to have refeed days. You know, your body still
Right.
needs amino acids and, you know, good source of carbohydrates and B vitamins and all that jazz to, you know, to run. But being able to fluctuate in and out of that and let your body being like, hey, I can do both. That's where you want to be. I think that's key to just being able to be metabolically flexible.
Yeah. You're getting to a good point about how some people have the issues like that, viewing it on the health side. And one point I want to bring up is I also think I see this with a lot of clients is they get kind of confused that they're like I literally had someone say this to me, but isn't it unhealthy if I don't eat 2,000 calories a day? And it's really interesting. I don't think that person's uneducated or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think it's really profound to think of something like that we're sort of told at a young age. You know, we talked about in the beginning how the guidelines have changed, and in reality, the guidelines of 2,000 calories a day is sort of based upon the fact that you're probably should be burning more than that a day. And if you think of things in windows and like 24-hour spans, you know, just because I only ate maybe 1,000 calories at dinner one night doesn't mean I'm not going to make up for that calorie expenditure in a 24-hour window between that dinner, a workout, and the next dinner. You see what I'm saying? Like how that matches up. Like it doesn't necessarily need to be each day. And I think a lot of people think like they reset their internal um, inventory as soon as they wake up for breakfast, and they're like, what did I eat today, what did I drink today, and like they only think of it in those terms, when in reality it's kind of based off of wherever you're thinking of it right now, 24 hours prior to that point and 24 hours forward from that point.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's kind of confusing.
No, it's
Okay.
it's just I've like, you know, just different perspective, you know, that people
Yeah,
have.
that's what I want people to kind of see, because I think a neat tool for people if they're going to start fasting is logging. I do like the MyFitnessPal app because it will give you caloric estimates for what you're consuming. And if you are someone who can eat a lot of olive oil and a lot of coconut oil, and you've gotten your body more fat adaptive like that, you'll start to realize that all your calories are going to be coming from fat and protein. And you know, a calorie is a calorie is a calorie is so not true, because I could eat 3,000 calories a day of olive oil and I would probably feel and look and perform amazing. Or I could eat 3,000 calories of milk and I guarantee I'd be shitting myself. I'd have symptoms for colitis, and yeah, I'd probably be throwing up because you can't handle that much lactose in one sitting. But you get the point. You get the point. So check out MyFitnessPal. It's a really cool way to keep track of just your food and kind of get a better idea of where you're getting your calories from and what your body's really using for energy. And you'll start to realize that um, this one of these doctors that I follow, his phrase is food was invented to get olive oil in your mouth. You'll start to realize that that's actually pretty fucking true. It's pretty spot on.
And then if you wanna like document like your fast, if you're gradually, you know, just write what time you started. I mean, so some people not are gonna they're not gonna stop eating right at say 9 o'clock. It might be Like now, it's I'd be like, hey, it's 9:06 and I'm gonna stop, and then they're like, hey, I'm hungry. I'm gonna eat at the next day at 10:30. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just know that you're getting that time frame in where it's, hey, that was over 12 hours. I'm pretty good. Like, can I continue? Because I think that's a big thing when people start not tracking and they're like, oh, I think I stopped here, but did I really? Did I not? Like, that's also another good way to track that. I don't know if you can do that in the app. I'm sure you can do it in notes and stuff, but I mean, there's so many ways to track.
One thing that you're saying though that helps with too is like understanding how you can get better next time. So if you made it 12 hours, next time shoot for 14 hours and see if you can make it, so you can slowly add increments. And generally speaking, from what I've read and seen, you want to shoot for a 16-hour fast for the most benefits for autophagy and stem cell production. But if you can, I would say try to work in a 24-hour fast at least once a month, if not once a week. And one thing I want to mention to that is you can try to perform, and this would be like advanced level fasting, right? Like if you have never fasted before, stick with the beginning tips that we gave you. If you're kind of, all right, what next? I can fast. I can handle this shit. What else you got for me? Try a dry fast. Because seriously, your body's going to get efficient with its water usage as well. And one of the things that frees up, becomes available when you beta oxidize a fat cell, you actually free up or make available a water molecule. So you're just that kid that's inefficient playing with his toys. You're making your body that much more efficient at using every little piece that's on it. So give that a shot. Give a dry fast a shot if you're in an advanced stage, or give the 24-hour, 48-hour fast a shot.
The 24-hour, I mean,
go ahead.
I know it sounds pretty crazy to people. It's not like you're doing it, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. I mean, you could. How I've done them before is like you'll stop eating at 7 or 8 and then go the whole next day and just have your next meal at 7 or 8 at night, have dinner. No, I think people look at it as like, oh, I can't eat all day for 24 hours. Time your 24 hours so it can benefit you and you can still, have a meal during technically the day period, but you're still getting 24 hours of fasting in.
I love it. So give that a shot, everybody. If you aren't fasting, definitely want to incorporate that into your routine, into your lifestyle, and let us know how it goes. Remember to try it out on a day or weekend. Excuse me, maybe it's a weekend, maybe it's during the week that you're doing the least amount of physical activity, something that's high demanding. If you're going hiking or something like that, or like on a walk around the park, you should be fine. But if you're doing like vigorous exercise and it's your first time fasting, yeah, you're definitely going to be distracted. You're definitely going to notice that you're not, you don't have anything in your stomach. So give that a shot, everybody, and let us know how it goes. Write us in. Our email is thinkfitnesslife, all one word, @gmail.com. And if you like the podcast, feel free to share with your friends and family. And check us out and leave us a review on iTunes, because we are always trying to look for new ways to give information in a fun, clear, concise manner that dives in deep so that you don't have to. And that's it. Do you have anything you want to say to wrap up?
Go out and keep challenging yourselves every day. I mean, that's how we get better at everything. Doesn't matter, whether it's exercise, diet, learning something new. I mean, challenge yourself. You're going to create different pathways. You're going to learn. You're going to be better. And I think that's what we're all about here.
Yep. And I'll finish it with a quote from someone who's very much on topic with fasting. Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. Mahatma Gandhi. So get your body in harmony. And we'll see you next time. Peace.